Welcome to another episode of Crawfordsville Connection, the City of Crawfordsville's weekly podcast that comes out every Monday morning. I'm your host, Sarah Summer, and I'm joined in the studio every week with Mayor Todd Barton to keep our community up to date on current events, city workings, and to hear from community members on a variety of topics. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed the show. Welcome back to another episode of Crawfordsville Connection. I'm your host, Sarah Summer, and today I'm joined in the studio by Mayor Todd Barton.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. And today we have with us Brandy Allen. Hello.
Hello.
We're not doing a general
It's
update.
not a general update.
We've got something kind of fun.
Yeah, we're throwing you a curveball today.
Yes, a little different, but similar to an FAQ episode, but we're going to address some social media, most common misconceptions or things that we see that we think should be addressed.
Yeah, we try to listen and we try to help people. We try to communicate and help people understand what's going on and all those things. And there's some common misconceptions that we see. So we're going to kind of talk through some of those a little bit today. Thought that might be a fun episode.
Yeah, something a little different. And, this could be one of those that we throw in with our FAQ episodes, where we sprinkle them in throughout the year and address things that we're seeing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, before we get started, though, Mayor, do you have any announcements?
I do. Have a community forum scheduled for Wednesday, July 22nd, 4 to 5 p.m. at Pike Place. So if there's something on your mind, question, concern, complaint, idea, whatever, stop by and see me. Again, that's Wednesday, July 22nd, 4 to 5 p.m. at Pike Place. If there's weather questions, just look at our social media. Speaking of social media.
Yes.
And we'll post if we make a change. If it was bad, we would just move it around the corner to Fusion 54.
Perfect.
Yep.
Well, we'll jump right in and get started with, does the city determine where businesses choose to locate? We see a lot of that on social media.
Yeah.
They should do that, or the city should do that.
Yeah. And I know our listeners understand this, but this is probably the biggest misconception we see on social media. So we did kind of put this on here at the top of the list, so to speak. But there is a massive misunderstanding, I think, in a large percentage of our population that think that they, or the quote I see all the time, quote, this town only builds, fast food restaurants or whatever. So this town doesn't build any restaurants, I can assure you. It's not in the budget. So we put that on there. I mean, again, you have to step back and remember we are a free market economy and businesses make their decisions based on where they think they'll be successful. And we try to nudge that. We try to influence that. We try to, incentivize where we can. We do all the things we can. But at the end of the day, a business makes that decision. And where I've seen it a lot lately is, they should open a skating rink. Well, that's great. It's a free market economy. If you think that idea is so successful, you should do it.
Yeah,
absolutely. But obviously, those who would have to invest large sums of money don't think it's feasible, right? Or they would do it. So, so that we put that on there just to kind of remind people. I know our listeners get it, but that is the number one misconception probably that we see all the time. I think people tend to sometimes believe like the mayor decides what goes where.
Right.
I only wish, folks.
Yeah.
I only wish we would have some different things here if that was the case. I try very hard to get different things, and at the end of the day, it's up to those businesses to make those decisions. And we'll talk about this in the general update, but right now there's a lot going on with retail, and I think we're on the cusp of seeing some new and exciting things. I think we're getting really close, and you had to get the growth on the south side. The housing growth and all those things to happen for us to get to that next level. And I think we're there, but I can't wave the magic wand and I can't tell businesses, you're going to do this and you're going to build here and you're going to build a grocery store where I say you're going to build it. It just doesn't work that way.
If only.
And if along those same lines too, we also can't tell them they can't build something that they want to. So if you're mad about the next dollar store, pizza place, fast food restaurant that's coming in, if it's zoned properly and they have everything they need, we can't tell them that they can't. And you wouldn't want to live in a community where we could anyway.
Right. I always ask people, well, what if I told you how you had to spend your money and invest your money? And people look at me like, there's no way. I tell you to go pound sand, right? Well, same thing.
Yes.
It's the same thing. So we put that on here. I know our listeners understand that, but that is the most common misconception we see on social media.
Absolutely. And do city staff actively monitor social media all day, all night, all the time.
Well, you're the communications director.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I can assure you I do not.
Yeah, this is a misconception we see a lot. Like, people will assume we know something because it had been posted on social media or in a
Somewhere,
chatter page or
right.
something. Like, you should know that it was on Chatter 2 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
We're not just sitting there looking at social
Right.
media. I mean, yes, we do try to kind of peruse once in a
Mm-hmm.
while. I'll just be bold and upfront and tell you I just don't look at social media much.
Yeah.
It just there's nothing positive or productive that comes from that in my world,
Yeah.
right? So to assume we know something, if there's something we need to know, don't assume we'll know it because it was on social media.
Right.
Please reach out to us.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a problem with a street, there's a problem, whatever, go down the list.
Yeah.
Make a call, send an email. Just don't assume we automatically know it. We had a case a while back where there was a problem with the sidewalk, and people were like, well, you should have known that. It was on social media for a week.
Right.
Well, we don't know that.
Right.
We're not just sitting around, especially on nights and weekends. We're not looking at that. So.
And we can't catch everything, even if it is on social media. We're not catching everything.
For sure. Yeah. So yeah, we don't actively just monitor that, which I brought that up a while back. That's, part of the issue with comments. Like
Mm-hmm.
if we allowed comments on every post, we would have to monitor those.
Right.
To make sure that there's somebody not attacking another citizen.
Mm-hmm.
You can attack me all day. That's fine. But you can't attack other citizens, right? So yeah, we don't pay you to work 24/7 and just watch social media, do we?
Right. No.
I
mean, you could, I guess.
Yeah. So that's a misconception we see, is that people think automatically that we're just there watching that all the time.
Yeah.
And we're not.
And I think that goes perfectly into this next one, that Facebook Messenger is a good way to contact the mayor or our city staff.
Yeah, and both on the city's Facebook Messenger and on mine, you will get an automatic reply that says, please call us or send us an email, right? And again, it goes back to the fact that we're not monitoring that. So if you send me a message on Messenger and think I'm going to get it and be able to answer you, I won't see that for a while.
Right.
I do not have Facebook Messenger on my cell phone, period.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to see that until the next time I happen to log on, which may be a day or 2 or 3 or 4. It's a while, right? So it's not an effective way. There's too much of a delay, especially nights and weekends. You're not sitting in your office, with that pulled up and everything. Send us an email.
Yeah.
That'll get through. Make a phone call. Those kind of things. It's just not an effective way for us to communicate.
Yeah. And social media posts or comments that we see on other posts, those weigh heavily on, our decisions that we make here in the city. Our, those public input, is that where you're making your decisions from?
Yeah. There's a lot of misconception about that.
Yeah.
And I think that, first and foremost, like, you see political argument on social media all day, every day, right? And, here's the reality. If you think you're going to change somebody's views on social media, you're arguing with people, I don't say for no reason, but you're not going to change their views on social media more than likely, right? So how much does that weigh in for us? Not really at all. And that may sound crass, but let me explain why here. Because first and foremost, we don't know who's saying what. And I know on the surface, you're like, well, of course you do. Their name's on there. Well, many times they're anonymous, right? Many times they are fake profiles. We just call it what it is. Like, I can go on there and say that I'm whoever, right? So you don't really know unless you work to verify that it's whomever saying whatever they're saying. So you just gotta take it with a grain of salt, I think. If somebody reaches out to us, absolutely, we're listening. But the social media stuff just doesn't carry that much weight for us. The other piece of that is when there are postings on social media like that, the first question that I'm going to have is about standing. And what I mean by that is it somebody that has legal standing in the issue, right? Is it a Crawfordsville resident posting that? I will tell you, most of the time, it's not.
Yeah.
It's just not. So, not that we don't care about people who visit the community and come to the community and work in the community. We absolutely do. But at the end of the day, here's what it comes down to. I work for the people of Crawfordsville, and I'm going to listen to the people of Crawfordsville all day, every day. And yes, I'm going to hear what other people are saying,
Mm-hmm.
but the opinions that matter most are the people that I work for, right?
Right.
And so I have to kind of put that in perspective. I was asked by one of the newspapers a while back, there's all this stuff on social media about this particular issue. What are you going to do? And I'm like, well, there's a handful of posts, right,
Mm-hmm.
from a handful of people. There's 16,000 people in Crawfordsville, and I've not heard from a single Crawfordsville resident on this issue, right? And that's what's going to drive me, to, at the end of the day, I have to take into consideration the views of all 16,000. They're not all going to agree.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at it all and make what we think is a sound decision. But this kind of outside extra noise just doesn't carry much weight because it's, in the end, largely irrelevant. And a lot of times I tell people, and I'm not going to pick on this community, it's not picking on them by any means, but let's say I was to go to Brownsburg and tell them what they should be doing.
Right.
They're going to look at me like,
right.
Who cares what you think, right? And they should, they should, because it doesn't matter, right? So yeah, these social media posts just really don't carry much weight in our decision-making process. It may bring up an issue that we look at, but it doesn't. We're not going to make a decision based on some posts. And I think the other thing you have to consider there is scale. So if you have 3 people on social media upset about something, and that sounds like, oh, there's 3 people upset or 4 people. I represent 16,000 people, 3 or 4, okay, right? We're going to look at it maybe, but at the end of the day, I represent 16,000 people.
Yeah.
So you have to put it in scale and put it in perspective. So again, not to be overly negative there, I just want to remind people, we have all these ways for you to offer input. We have the public meetings. Before every vote of the city council, we ask for public input. Every single vote. An ordinance goes through 3 readings. You have 3 opportunities.
Yeah.
A lot of times there's a public hearing. You have an opportunity there. So, we have all the public meetings. We have email. Email is a great way to communicate with me. Like, I don't delete an email until I've answered it and responded. I'll put an asterisk there. Our spam filters mess me up sometimes.
Might take a little while, but you'll get there.
Well, I generally get them all, but there's occasionally one that'll get stuck in the filter. So if it's been a couple days, 3 days, you've not heard from me, you might call as well. But you can always call the offices. I have community forums. We talk about that a lot. So there's all these opportunities for our residents and people affected by what we're doing to weigh in. Social media really is not going to sway things that much.
Yeah. And we talk about it often. The reason we do those community forums and you have your email, it's not a private email. People know how to reach out to you is because we want to be transparent. We want people to ask the questions. They don't need to go to social media for those things.
Yeah, and there are communities, not a lot, but there are communities I know of that you cannot email the mayor. I mean, that's kind of ludicrous to me, but you just can't directly email the mayor. You have to email a staff member and kind of go through the process. We don't have that here, and we shouldn't have that here. You can reach out to us directly. You can come to a forum, tell us what you think. City council is very accessible. Everybody's accessible here, right? So
we also have the website where there's you can request input, or I forget exactly what it's called on the website, but I know that Renee gets all those and then can filter them out. If you don't know who to email, go to the website, email that, and it can be directed to the.
And we have the meetings live streamed. So if you can't make it to a meeting, you can watch it, and you can go watch those archived.
Yeah.
Now I'll be the first to tell you, we struggle with quality there some. We're working on that. This building was built 1931 or something like that. Adapting it to new technology is not an easy process. The acoustics are not good.
Not great.
So we're working on all of that, but that's an option as well. We want people to be informed. We want feedback. But the social media piece, there's so many variables there that you have to really take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah. And then social media, we've talked about the chatter pages or comments on other people's posts or other business posts. Sometimes people assume that what everybody says is credible. And I think, especially if it's something regarding the city projects or things happening here, refer to our social media, refer to this podcast and our website, and that's where you can get that credible information. But if people are seeing, oh, the city is doing this on somebody else's post and it's, a person posting this or those anonymous posters, is it always credible?
It's on Facebook. It must be true,
It must
right?
be true.
Yeah. I think you always have to ask yourself, does this person have first-hand knowledge of what they're talking about? If they don't, then you have to, again, take that with a grain of salt, right? You see so many posts that start out that say, I heard. And if it starts out as I heard, then that's your big red flag that this is second, third, fourth, fifth hand information, and the accuracy may not be great. So, there's a lot of things that get put out there that they're just not accurate. Now, what we tend to notice here in this community is other citizens will correct people pretty quickly. That's kind of interesting, kind of fun to watch. Because people, like, for example, listen to the podcast and they'll say that's not what they said on the podcast. Right here, they're telling you the answer to that question.
Absolutely.
Right. So, just because you see it on there doesn't mean it's credible. And sadly, there are people who I think just like to go on there and spread things. They want to be in the know, right?
Yes.
And they're not always in the know.
Yeah.
And so they get the cart ahead of the horse. And it creates some issues sometimes. We have no secrets. We've talked about that over and over. Like, there are no big secrets here. Like, we're pretty transparent. We put it all out there. So there's, if people are trying to fill in the blanks, it's just not accurate.
Yeah. Our general updates are perfect examples
Yeah.
of that, where we are laying out all the details, the progress happening in these projects. And we do appreciate when we see people saying, hey, listen to the podcast at 3 minutes and 20 seconds and you'll get the answer, or taking those screenshots and, snippets from it.
No secret projects, no hidden agendas. I mean, we put it all on the table. The only thing that we don't like is, economic development deals. There is a confidentiality factor there with those businesses. They don't want their competitors to know. So as we're in initial talks with them, yes, we keep that quiet. And many times we have to sign a non-disclosure agreement that we won't talk about it. But when it reaches the point where they're asking for public, whatever accommodations or permitting process, it becomes public and we talk about it. So just because you see it on there doesn't mean it's true. Ask yourself, does that person, have firsthand knowledge? Do they really know? So most of the time you'll find that they probably don't, but we give you all the information. Nothing's hidden.
Yes. And every request for a rezone or appeal to the Board of Zoning Appeals is a city initiative.
Brandy, take that one.
This one's always interesting because the city has an ordinance that is set out for, it's basically designed for, this would be the best set of rules and guidelines in most situations. There will always be some situation that might need to be looked at a little differently. So there is a legal setup to go through a process and be able to ask for a variance or a change to that ordinance. And we can't deny someone to do that. And part of that process is notifying those neighbors. If you think that you may have a situation that should be looked at differently than what the ordinance says, then we can do that. We have a quasi-judicial board that will evaluate that and vote on that. But part of that process is notifying the neighbors. Oftentimes when people get that notification, they think it's the city, because we have to send notice of the request. They think that we automatically support this, that this was our initiative or whatever it might be. And that's just simply not true. But we have to give everyone the right to come and have their specific situation evaluated if they think that it doesn't really fit into that, the way that ordinance was designed. There may be a specific reason, and there has to be kind of a special circumstance that would allow that, in the case of a variance anyway, that would allow us to look differently at that situation. But those are all evaluated in a process that's established by the state government. So we can't tell someone, nope, we're not going to let you ask permission to do that. So when you're receiving notice for that, it's part of the process. You're invited to comment on that process and provide your input, and then the board will weigh all of that, the information from the petitioner, the information from the neighbors, the information from city staff or other city departments. So it's all part of the process. But just because you receive notice of a meeting doesn't mean that the city is supporting this. You see that with some of these big issues that turn into
they are trying to rezone this, and they being the city. When maybe we are in favor of it, maybe we're not, right? Or a Board of Zoning Appeals case. And I think it's important to remember the board Brandy's talking about, those are citizens.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not city staff. Those are citizens across a section of the community that hear it out and decide, okay, should this be allowed or not, right? And they weigh all the facts. I think they do a fantastic job. they're not city staff. They don't work for me.
They work for free.
They work for free, and that's a difficult board because every decision they make, like half the room thinks they made the right decision and the other half thinks it was a terrible decision. So hats off to them. They're not influenced. I don't communicate with them. Like they're on there as citizens to make decisions, right? And so we let them do that. Now I will say, like, if somebody's really making bizarre decisions like all the time, we'd be like, okay, what's going on here? But that doesn't happen. We have a very good group on the Board of Zoning Appeals, and they do a fantastic job. But because those notices, the person files their request with the city, and we have to send those notices out to those adjoining property owners. Like Brandy said, they automatically assume, well, the city's behind this, and they're in favor of it, and they're all mad at us.
Yeah.
Because they're mad at us because their neighbor wants to do whatever on their property. That's not necessarily, that's not the case, really. So sometimes there may be a rezone that, yes, we would like to see happen. Sometimes a lot of times we're ambivalent to it. Like it doesn't matter one way or the other. Let them decide and let the neighbors weigh in on it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean it's automatically a city-led initiative. And that is a very common misconception we see quite a bit.
And we see a lot of confusion over the role of different branches of our local government and, just the difference between city and county in general.
We do. Yeah. And I'm often like baffled, and I get that it is confusing to a certain degree, but there's a big difference between city government, county government, state government, federal government. And then I think it gets more confusing because even within city government, there's all these different pieces, right?
Yeah.
In the county government, there's different pieces. And, I just heard of a community, I think it's in Florida, that's doing like a government 101 series just to kind of help people understand. And I get that it's confusing, but even the basics, people really get confused about that. So they kind of just lump it all together. And there's all these different pieces. So, this city has certain responsibilities, the county has certain responsibilities, the state has certain responsibilities. We see that play out within the city of Crawfordsville. Like I get a ton of feedback about the courthouse. I have absolutely nothing to do with the courthouse. I'm not trying to pass the buck, but I just literally don't.
People even think your office is there.
A lot of people think that the mayor's office is at the courthouse. People show up there for meetings. They get upset about certain things going at the courthouse, and I have nothing to do with the courthouse at all. A lot of times I get questions or feedback or concerns about the criminal justice system. I have absolutely nothing to do with that side of it, with the courts or probation or the operation of the jail, anything like that. There are areas like city streets. Absolutely, that's us. Our utilities, absolutely, that's us. Our parks, those kind of things. Of course, we see confusion we have state operated highways in the middle of the city.
Yes.
And that's even confusing for us. We just went through that. Like, how far do they maintain off of their roadway? It's shrinking, I'll tell you. Like, they used to maintain their entire right of way. Now, we just do curb to curb, So any way they can cut costs and put it on the locals, they're going to do that, right? So, there's weeds growing along Washington Street. Well, who is it, right? Is it the state? Is it the city? Is it the property owner? All that stuff gets kind of confusing. We just have to sort through it. And so there's all these different levels. And then, like I said, within the city, what role does the different parts of city government play? You have the council, you have the elected officials, you have the clerk treasurer, then you have the appointed boards and bodies. And, who hires, for example, just to say, who hires firefighters and police officers? Is the mayor hiring them? Absolutely not, right? There's a process that we go through, and we have these boards made up of citizens who look at that and make decisions there. So there's all these different layers that I think tend to get lumped together on social media, like the city did this or they did this, and you got to look at the different layers and understand who's responsible for what. And like I said, I get it's confusing. I totally understand that, but we're going to maybe look at doing a series like that as well to kind of help parse some of that out for people, make it a little bit easier and know where to go when you need certain kinds of things. And one of my pet peeves with government is passing the buck. Like, I hate it. And it sounds like that's what I'm doing. But, I don't like that's not us. We're on the other side of the road. Like, just figure it out and get it done. But I think you do have to understand the basics of who's responsible for what and how that plays out.
Well, and I think too, it's not always passing the buck. It's knowing that, Mayor, you're not doing everything. We have a great team who is working on things, and so
Right.
everybody plays their individual roles. And yes, everybody falls under this branch of the city, but there are different entities. And
yeah, I get hit a lot of times with questions about things that I just don't know the answer to because, we have department heads and they run their departments.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm involved and yes, they keep me in the loop, but I don't know every detail of everything. I can't. I can't do that. And nor is that right to them when they're trying to run their departments. And I get it most commonly with public safety. I mean, probably police more than anything. Like, I'm not involved in those daily decisions, nor should I be. That's why we put professionals in place to do that. And yes, I'm going to oversee the general policy, and I need to know kind of what's going on and if there are issues, and make sure that policy fits our community.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the ground level decisions are not things I'm going to know about. And a lot of times people think I do. Like, well, didn't you know this? And I'm like, no. I'm not trying to, skirt my responsibility. Those are so many things that happen on a daily basis in all our departments. It would be impossible for me to
know
keep up.
everything.
And we have very talented people overseeing those departments. Then we have talented supervisory level positions within those departments that do that as well.
Awesome. And there are some misconceptions about the flock cameras, misconceptions and a lot of chatter about
we've seen that. We put that on here. And so here's the thing. So we're going to do an episode on this. In fact, we're going to get this scheduled real soon just to do a focus episode to talk about flock cameras, because I understand there are privacy concerns and I don't want the government tracking me, right? But I think we have to weigh several things when we look at this. But I think the most common misconception that I see is who's actually funding those all the time, because it's not always government, and it's different parts of government, and how that data can be used. And we had in-depth conversations before those were deployed in those community, in-depth conversations, because like I said, I get the privacy thing. I take that seriously. And so I had to be assured that it would be used in the right way. And so we're going to have Chief Mattingly on, and we're going to do a really deep dive on this to kind of to talk through it and explain kind of what's going on there. And the most common thing, there was people like, the mayor, you need to put a stop to this. Well, here's the reality. I could probably get some of them stopped, but I can tell you right now, the bulk of them in this community are not under city control. So I have no ability to do that, right? So we're going to talk about that. There's a lot of misconceptions out there, a lot of questions, and we should try to answer those questions. And we'll do that hopefully pretty soon on an episode.
Yes.
Yep.
And CELMP rate adjustment misconceptions.
Yeah. So CLMP is going through a rate adjustment. The rates will go up some. It's kind of weird. I was looking back a few years ago. We did an episode where we cut rates. Yeah. Nobody talked about that, right?
Right.
You didn't see social media posts on that?
No, I didn't see anything about that. But so they were in the process of doing that. And, tons of misconceptions about that. They being the city's raising these rates so they can make more money. Well, it's a utility. It's not for profit. There's not shareholders. I don't get a bonus. There's none of that stuff. I don't even get paid by them at all. So, it's a complex formula, but it's really simple math, really. Here's the deal. We have to buy the power that we push out into the system, right, to sell to you. And the cost of that, us buying that power, is going up. We have to keep up with that. Is the bulk of what's spent of the CLP revenue. The rest of the operational stuff. And we have to make sure we maintain our system here. And it is expensive to do that. It is very expensive. And I'm really proud of this community because we have taken that seriously. And our infrastructure on the electrical side here is very good and continues to be good. And I'll just tell you, there are a lot of communities that are not doing that. They're not reinvesting in their infrastructure, and they're going to be in trouble in a few years. We have a lot of industry here, and they employ our people. You have to have reliability and redundancy for them to be successful. If you have outages and blips in the system. I mean, just a blip in the system can cost them tens of thousands of dollars one time because they lose everything that's in the process. So that's what this is about is, how much it's going to cost us to purchase the power and how much it's going to cost us to maintain the system. This is not driven by growth through the community. Actually, that's helping offset some of it, all those misconceptions that get out there. So we may try to do more of a focus on this here pretty soon. We really need folks at CLMP and Allison and their own board to walk through this. I'm just doing a high-level overview. But again, there's a citizen board overseeing that operation. I don't oversee the operation of the electric utility. Yes, I'm involved. Yes, I'm informed. But at the end of the day, there's a citizen board that's very much into the details and in the weeds, making sure that we're operating it as effectively and efficiently as possible.
Yeah. And also, I think there's misconceptions because of a lot of things happening with private utilities throughout the state, which are completely different than our city utility. Where there's a different, we're not building that profit necessarily into it. But I think if you look at actual numbers instead of percentages, I think it sounds scary. But if you look at breakdowns, a couple of dollars change to the bill. And obviously everyone's is different. But I think there's also misconceptions out there just about what that even means and what it looks like.
And we don't want rate increases. Nobody does. Nobody wants a rate adjustment. But we have to make sure we have a legal obligation to maintain the system. And so it is not, how do I say this? It's not proper for us to let it just crumble and be in debt, and I will tell you, when I became mayor, CLMP was in debt, a lot of debt, right? Spent a lot of my first term working on trying to get that ship turned around. We're not going back there. And so we have to make sure we stay ahead of this. But yeah, it does get confusing. And there's a lot of stuff on TV news about the investor-owned utilities and a blow up in Indianapolis. Those are very different scenarios where, how much profit should they make to pay their shareholders and their CEOs and all that? We don't have that in our equation. And our rates, go compare them. Anybody can compare them. They're very good, very good, because we don't have that extra layer. And we're one of the communities in Indiana that own our own electric utility, and it's very, very important for us.
Okay. So we've covered a lot of information here, and I mean, these are probably just scratching the surface. I mean, there's more questions out there, more things that we see, but this is just kind of some of the frequent and kind of more relevant topics that we've been seeing recently. If people are, questioning things or they've got, they're seeing stuff on social media, where can they actually get accurate, factual information?
Well, if you have a question, ask us first and foremost. Like, send us an email. Like, there's no question that's off limits, right? I mean, just let us know. Call in. If you call in, I mean, you probably won't get me immediately, but I will return your call. If you want to email me, I will respond to your email. Just if you have a question, ask or email any of the department leaders. They'll answer your question. You can get answers here, right? On the podcast. I think we cover pretty much everything from A to Z. So definitely check that out. We have a ton of information on our website. The live streams are available and the archive is available. The community forums. A lot of people come to the forum just to ask questions. They come in and, hey, what's going on with this? And what can you tell me about, why are we doing it this way? Have you thought about something different? So those are good. And then, you can pay attention to the media coverage. I'll put an asterisk there. And I'm not saying that they do a bad job. I'm just saying you have to understand that's from somebody else's perspective. So that's not firsthand, it totally depends on their perspective. And what I mean by that is, like, there may be 20 things said at a meeting and the article is going to have 3.
Right.
So you kind of had to put that in perspective. But they're a source as well. And so, there's tons of opportunity for you to get your questions answered. And if there's something that, you're just really curious about and just let us know. We'll do an episode on it maybe.
Absolutely.
If we can. Like, we'll do a deep dive into it and answer your questions.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think this podcast alone should show that we aren't trying to make decisions in secret and hide this information. We want the public to be informed, and we're all better for that. So If you have a question or you want more information, that's how a lot of these podcast episodes come, because someone had a question and we feel like people need to know.
And hats off to the people of this community. I will tell you, like, I do a lot of stuff with other communities. We are so much better off here. Like, people are much more informed. People ask the right questions, and you don't see like the misinformation hysteria in this community like you do a lot of them. A lot of them, I'll just tell you, it's a mess. It is a quagmire of nonsense, and it's a mess in a lot of communities. And thank goodness we're not like that here. And I hope that what we do contributes to that. But I also give credit to the citizenry. Like, they understand, like, let's try to do our homework and dig in. Yes, there will always be those on the periphery on social media just, trying to, I'll just say, stir it up. Yes. How's that? So we get that, like, but it tends to not really get much traction here because people do their homework and they're informed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, like we said, this is just maybe scratching the surface, and maybe we didn't answer something that you're still questioning. Reach out, let us know. And if you heard something or you do want, a specific podcast topic covered, let us know. We want to know what you want to hear about. And as always, check out Yodel, our Community Connections calendar and newsfeed for all things happening in Crawfordsville in one easy, convenient location. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on this podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you aren't already, follow us on Facebook at City of Crawfordsville Official, on Twitter at City of Seaville, and on Instagram at City of Crawfordsville. We hope you have a wonderful day and can't wait for you to join us next week.